Just weeks after a joint venture deal saved TikTok from being banned in the U.S., there are serious questions about how TikTok U.S. is being run. Users and watchdogs are accusing TikTok U.S. of censoring content in the United States. They say posts about the deadly shootings by federal agents in Minneapolis, as well as those relating to the late child sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, are being suppressed.
It was only recently that TikTok's new ownership structure took effect, and only shortly after that when users began noticing something unusual on the platform.
So this is how it should appear. The latest video under my 3 pinned videos is the ICE shooting analysis. But this is what my page looks like according to people who message me. And even weirder, this is how it appears in their watch history, a blank square. The red X mark is just them pointing it out to me.
Stephen Cash is a former intelligence official who now manages a watchdog focused on democracy and who himself experienced posting difficulties.
I can tell you that we posted one video early in the morning and it got many, many hits. We have something like 35,000 followers. A second video, we just could not get it posted. And then when it finally got posted, it had only 1 view or something like that. And then we go on the other social media platforms, Twitter and Blue Sky, and actually TikTok and others. And we're seeing lots of people saying, we're seeing the same thing.
Reports abounded of users having a hard time getting posts discussing the unrest in Minneapolis or referencing sex offender Jeffrey Epstein published. TikTok blamed technical glitches, referring to a, quote, infrastructure issue after a power outage at a data center. By now, the issues with posting appear to have resolved themselves, but suspicions that TikTok may have been suppressing content have not entirely gone away. But Stephen Cash thinks the damage may have been done anyway.
It doesn't really matter if it's a power outage or not. It adds to the level of fear. It adds to the dislocation of our ability to talk to each other, communicate to each other, debate issues, talk about what's worrying us and what we can do to protect American democracy.
TikTok's U.S. operations are now under a majority American investor group, following a divest or ban law that forced China's ByteDance to surrender control or face being made unavailable in the country. The new ownership includes powerful figures with ties to the White House, such as Larry Ellison, who founded tech giant Oracle, but whose conservative media empire has also increased his political messaging power. And these changes are happening at a moment when the administration faces accusations of using the levers of government to pressure media companies, from lawsuits and funding threats to regulatory scrutiny, in ways critics say distort the information Americans receive.
Privately owned companies can do pretty much whatever they want to, but I'm not mad at TikTok. What I'm concerned about is that the privately owned companies are not functioning as privately owned companies anymore. They are starting to function as state-controlled or state-influenced companies. And that's the major difference. Would Larry Ellison and that consortium be owning TikTok now if the President of the United States had not pushed that, using all of the levers that he has? Would CBS be refusing to run the account of some of the ICE facilities?
It's a reference to how, in late December, the network giant CBS abruptly pulled a completed 60 Minutes investigation into migrants deported to El Salvador's Sicot detention center, with the journalist leading the investigation saying she thought the report was sidelined to, quote, shield the administration. In the same way that posting issues on TikTok appear to have been solved, that CBS report also did eventually air. But in both recent cases, worries remain of a tightening of boundaries in terms of what Americans feel they can say or expect to see.
Well, joining me now is Paolo Gebaurdo. He's a sociologist at Complutense University of Madrid. He has been closely following platforms such as TikTok and their effects on politics and society. Paolo, it's good to have you with us tonight. We know that platforms such as TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, they all use algorithms to curate our content. They push us content. So why should we be so concerned about what's happening over at TikTok US and the takeover there?
Yes, I mean, as you say rightly, algorithmic curation is something common to all these platforms, and it has a functional purpose. It is about reducing the amount of content to a sizable amount, I mean, to an amount which we can manage. Otherwise, it would be too much. All the content is there. So it is allowing us to have a manageable chunk of content, as it were, according to what the platform sees as our interest, as our taste, as our previous interactions with the platform. And therefore, it is useful. It can be socially useful. I mean, this is what recommender systems in general do. What is the problem with TikTok? The problem with TikTok is that this is clearly, I mean, in any case, many of these platforms, profit motive, leads algorithms to emphasize extreme content, very high intensity content, sensationalistic content, which of course is socially problematic. It can lead to various pathologies. More so with TikTok, US, DS, which is this weird joint venture, Kungkwango, it's not clear what it is even, where there is also clearly a political agenda behind. Because what Trump has done was exploiting the moment, exploiting the opportunity to install at the control of TikTok a number of allies of his, I mean, people who have donated for Trump, people who have declared their support for Trump and Netanyahu and other global right figures.
So Paolo,
there is also a political agenda besides the normal agenda.
You don't think then, you don't believe the reason that TikTok US is giving us, saying that it was a data center losing its power that caused certain content to disappear?
I mean, of course, to make a certain assessment of that, you would need time and you would need data that I don't possess. But there are allegations made by lawmakers, made by the governor of California, Newsom, made by many users, a number of suspicious behaviors and events on the platform that have been reported, which contribute to this crisis of trust around the platform, which, I mean, of course, will need to be verified once we have more firm data, but it is not irrational as such.
But in
the sense that, again,
it seems too obvious, though, doesn't it? Paolo, doesn't it seem too obvious, though? I mean, if TikTok US really wanted to suppress and censor certain types of political content, wouldn't it be able to find a less obvious way to do it? I mean, your eye, my eye, we see it immediately. They've got to have a different way to do it, wouldn't they?
I mean, actually, algorithmic censorship, because it's curation that descends into censorship, it's a rather subtle and invisible way of doing it in a certain, to a certain extent. In a sense that the most hard-headed way would be to ban accounts, would be to stop people from posting altogether. And there have also been episodes of that on TikTok and other platforms, of voices that are considered, whatever, unacceptable by the power that be. With algorithmic curation, it's quite invisible, right? Because you don't see the algorithm. The algorithm is proprietary. The algorithm is a black box. What you see are the consequences of the algorithm, and they can be also very tiny, but even tiny changes can change the landscape, the climate of a platform.
And the fact that there are so many people on TikTok in the US, I think it's about 130 million. The reaction in recent days, it shows us, though, that there are too many eyes watching, and it shows us also that the users whose content has disappeared, that they will not let TikTok get away with this, right? I mean, TikTok may say it was a power outage, but the users, they're not going to let this die. Or how do you see it?
I mean, it is a very influential platform. It is not the top one, but it is one of the top three, more or less. I mean, it depends, it changes, but it is extremely influential, especially with young people. And it has been extremely influential in the last election campaign. I mean, Trump himself celebrated that, according to him, TikTok was what won it for him. And he made a great celebration of the fact that he saved TikTok and that now young people owe him because he did that. And again, it's not a matter of simply verifying things. I mean, there are many episodes, many events that accumulate and that build into this crisis of trust. I mean, when you see that all these media are controlled by right-wing people, I mean, Larry Ellison is controlling also many all news media.
Larry Ellison,
there is a new
he was the creator of Oracle, that's right. He's now, I guess, what, co-owner or part owner of TikTok US.
Exactly. He's the CEO of Oracle, the owner of other news media, the owner of broadcasting, So what you see is a pervasive control over both old media and new media, which means that both the information sources and the spaces of discussion are now in fewer and fewer hands. And I think young people, users more broadly, have very good reasons to be worried about what is going on.
But Paolo, before we run out of time, I just want to ask you, if we can't get our hands on the algorithm, you say it's property anyway, it's a black box. How can any prosecutor, any investigator, the FBI, for example, how can they then put together a case based on a claim that TikTok or another platform have manipulated an election? I mean, if we can't access the algorithm, how can we prove intent to manipulate?
I mean, there are various digital forensics techniques that can be used that are generally kind of described as reverse engineering. Namely, say you have a big account. Whenever you post, you get minimum 10,000 views. Suddenly you get 1,000 views. What is going on? I mean, you didn't change the content, you didn't change the style, you didn't change the timing of the post. Something strange is afoot. So by collecting of that information, you can show with quite a good margin of proof that something strange is going on there.
Okay, well, I'm sure that this story will have long legs. Maybe we'll be talking again to see how TikTok deals with this. Paolo Gebaurdo, it's good to have you on the show. We appreciate you sharing your insights tonight. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.